Hi there, welcome to the final video of my jQuery Builder course. I really hope you've been enjoying this course and that it's been helpful for you. In this last video, I want to share some final thoughts of things that are good to know about using jQuery as you continue to learn it. First, let's talk about how to debug and test your code. So we can copy any part of the code that we want to test, and on our live site to test it, all we have to do is right-click, click Inspect, and then click on the Console tab. And in here, we can run any of our jQuery to see what it's going to do. For instance, if I paste this code right here that's finding the link element, then I can open up this dropdown and see that there's 16 links across the site, and I can hover over each one of them to see where they are on the page. And then if I maybe do EQ of 0 and hit enter, now it should just find one and it should get the first one on the page. So this is a quick way to test and find out what it's getting. But what if you want to test out finding children inside an event code? You can copy your code, paste it in the console. In this case, we're finding the link text that's inside of the link we hovered over with an EQ of 0, so it should get the first one, and we're finding the text inside, and we're saving it in that variable called top line text. On this next line, what I would do is type console.log, open up parentheses, and in here I could go ahead and paste the variable we created above and end the line with a semicolon. So now when I hit enter, anytime I hover over any one of these links, it's going to return to me what the text is in the console of that first line of text right there. And if I want to test out any different parts, like maybe remove the EQ part and see if we can get both of them, now when we hover, we're getting the text of both the first line and the second line of text in the console. So this is a really easy way to test things out in real time. It can also tell you if you're trying to use a variable that's not defined. All in all, this is a great way to test and debug your code. Next, let's look at a way to shorten the amount of jQuery we need to use. Instead of adding a class to this arrow, a combo class, to rotate it whenever we open the dropdown, and also adding a combo class to this menu to show it, that slides it up. What we can do instead is just add one class to the parent dropdown called open dropdown that slides the dropdown menu up and rotates the arrow. In our CSS, we can target the dropdown menu only when it's inside of our combo class of open dropdown that turns the opacity up and brings the margin up, and target the drop-down arrow when it's inside of the open drop-down that just rotates it. Since those are styles we don't need to change on mobile, it's much easier to be able to just target this class on and off the parent drop-down that affects all the elements inside it, and even remove this class from other drop-downs to close out siblings. When we create animations by adding and removing combo classes with CSS transitions, it runs super smooth. But one of the best things about using combo classes is that we can adjust them on mobile. Instead of having to create an entirely different click interaction to adjust the position of this bicycle on mobile when we click on it, we can just adjust the class of where we want it to fall. And then from there, we're using the same interaction and just changing the styles of the class across breakpoints. We could even disable this interaction altogether on mobile by changing everything back to the style that it was on desktop before we added the class. One important note is that since the cleanup element will remove all classes not currently applied to elements, I recommend saving these classes on a separate style guide page where you can add them to different divs. The jQuery builder barely touches the surface of everything you can do with jQuery, so I recommend going to api.jquery.com to see a very, very long list of everything that you can do. You can click into each one of them to learn more about what each thing does and see specific examples of it being used with code and live examples. As always, if you'd like to learn even more about jQuery, feel free to check out my Patreon page where I have advanced jQuery tutorials. If you've made something cool using this builder, share the link in the comments below. I'd love to check it out. Thanks so much for joining this course. I really hope you've enjoyed it and learned a lot.